Hello, everyone, and welcome back. If you haven't been here before, my name is Tina from Quantum Healing with Tina and Karen. I'm a Beyond Quantum Healing practitioner, spirit releasement therapist, intuitive empath, and remote spirit release practitioner. And today we're here with Karen.
Hello, everybody. I'm an intuitive starseed, energetic healer, BQH practitioner, channel medium, and remote spirit release practitioner.
So we just wanted to jump on and have a little chat, right?
Yes.
I've been thinking a lot about healing and quantum healing in particular, and the work that we do, and how it really requires us to, it's really, really deep work, right? Like you have to be ready for it, because doing the work of quantum healing, you come face to face with yourself and the decisions you made before you incarnated, like before we come under this veil of forgetfulness. We forget all of that. We forget the in between. We forget our past lives. And part of the reason in forgetting is because Earth is a school, right? We come here to learn. We come here to learn the lessons that we want and need to learn. And part of that is to make it extra hard is to forget everything that we've already learned before, at least consciously. We always have it in the subconscious. And part of doing the work of quantum healing is to tap into that subconscious and remember again, like all of the things that we forgot when the veil of forgetfulness came down at birth, pretty much. I will say that there is a period of time from like birth through childhood where you are more closely connected to the other side, and some children do have memories that bleed through. Like if you start talking to your children when they're really, really young and ask things like, where were you before you came here with mommy and daddy, or like questions like that, you might be surprised at the answers you get, because their veil's not as thick as ours is as adults. But so we have this veil and we forget everything that we've ever done before in other lifetimes and in between, when we made soul contracts before we incarnated with our soul family for the lessons that we want to learn. And within these soul contracts, the people that love you the most will play roles like an abuser or a perpetrator that you incarnate into your own family, and your mother and father may be playing out these roles. And you don't realize that as you're growing up, of course. And is it an excuse for their abuse? Absolutely not. But from a higher perspective, and all perspectives are valid. I just want to say that all perspectives are valid. But from the higher perspective, from the soul level, we have to realize that these contracts were made in order to propel us onto our path of healing and growth and evolution. Because without these hardships, there would be no growth. And what Jesus says all the time is, we learn through contrast. If there were no contrast, we wouldn't learn these lessons. We would just be all light. This is why we incarnate into a world of duality and an extreme duality, like we have on Earth. So I just wanted to address that and say that, if you're thinking about having a quantum healing session, you really have to be aware of these things. Some people just like to come in and do it for fun and see, maybe past lives or whatever. But the deepest part of it, you're going to be faced with yourself and the decisions you've made. And say that your mom is a narcissist and she's never given you any love, and she's been super critical of you, and all of these things that happen in the 3D. You may find out that she made this contract with you in order for your growth. Like she stagnated and even digressed in her evolution so that she could propel you forward onto your path. And we see that a lot. And so it's like, instead of blaming others all the time, we have to take responsibility for ourselves and our choices, the choices that we made on a higher level, right? Yeah.
Def.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it's really, really deep work. And just in one session, you can clear a lot of trauma if you're ready to look at it and take responsibility for it. Through my own sessions, I've been able to clear so much trauma. I've been faced with the decisions that I have made to come into this life and experience an immense amount of suffering. The first 40 years of my life were just suffering. And before waking up and learning that I had a choice, and my choice was coming out of the victimhood and taking responsibility for my life and my choices. And this is what we're doing now on a global scale, on the micro and macro level, as we're, not only being faced with the decisions we've made in our lives on an individual level, but the relationship we have with the outside world, with the matrix itself, right? Because as we're being faced with our individual choices and our individual realities and lives, we're also being faced with this bigger picture. And it's like we're having to break up with the matrix and break up with, relationships in our lives that aren't serving us. It's like we wake up in this reality that this friendship, this romantic relationship, this family relationship that I have isn't healthy. And that I need to create boundaries. I need more self-love. I need to honor and respect myself. And we're also doing it on a grander scale as we're being faced with the abuse and the trauma that we've had from the outside world as well. So it's like this many levels of healing that we're doing kind of all at once. So it can be really overwhelming, especially with the 2020, which was like a year of transition for everyone and coming face to face with all of it. And it can be really traumatic when that happens. Like when you wake up inside the dream and you realize you've been living this way all this time and you're faced with all of the lies and manipulation and trauma and gaslighting and mind control, and you wake up within that and you're like, oh my God, where am I? What have I been doing all this time? And that in itself can be really traumatic for people, because it's like waking up within a world that you created, that you co-created, but you didn't even know that you were creating, right? And that sometimes is really shocking.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. But then you have to like sit in that realization and look at the lies, look at the manipulation, look what you've allowed yourself to go through all this time to actually co-create in this relationship, on the micro and macro level, because we have to be able to shine the light on that darkness and kind of sit there as we're like having this mass realization that the system we've been co-creating with is a dark system. And many, many people are waking up to that right now and being faced with the lies and the deception. And one of the biggest lies of this system is that we are powerless, right? And we're just powerless to the system. We have to do what we're told. The system, as soon as we're born, they start to tell us who we are. Instead of letting us find out who we are, we're being told who we are and how we should be in the world, instead of being nurtured and allowed to explore and find out who we really are. We're just being told that and molded into this being that society wants us to be, that the matrix wants us to be. So it's like coming out of that fog and finding yourself again. And it can be a little scary at first because you're like, who am I without all these stories, right? Who am I without these relationships and with these illnesses or however you are being victimized? Like, who am I without this? It can be really scary, but it's also a really beautiful place to be because then you get to choose who you want to be. You get to choose to co-create your reality now in a conscious way instead of just unconsciously feeding into this system, feeding into these relationships that aren't serving you. And so quantum healing and having a BQH session really allows you to go really deep and see all the limiting beliefs, the trauma, all of the kind of like the lies that you've been telling yourself. You really come face to face with all that in order to clear it out of the way, which is a really beautiful thing. Yeah. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I was just thinking like when we began our journey, I find that we are so lucky to be, to find out we were lucky to get little breadcrumbs along the way to lead us to this place where we're at right now. Because I feel like how, I don't know, I have it all set up in my mind, what it looks like to me that we have to come to a realization that the world that we live in is kind of like, yeah, it is a narcissistic relationship. And it's like you have the, what's the undercover one called?
Covert.
Yeah. And then now it's overt because everything's so obvious. So everything in the covert way was just kind of like the deprogramming and whatnot that we were under the radar, or that was under the radar, but very subtle abuse, and now it's so obvious. So you were getting the complete spectrum. So yeah, waking up into that and having realizing that you've been gaslit all that time is really heavy duty at this time. I feel for the people who are waking up, who have courageously decided to wake up now in the world that we live in. I think that's why it's important for the roles of us who have been fortunate enough to wake up before all of this stuff came down. We were able to gather our information and piece together our own puzzles, our own individual puzzles, by looking at our own gaslighting, our own relationships, everything that made us who we are, I guess, as a human in this storyline that we decided on. And that being like the reflection of what is coming or what's happening in the bigger picture.
Yeah.
So that seeing that reflection of my own life and seeing it in the world, sometimes it's so easy to forget. I find, sometimes I just feel like I have no compassion, honestly, and I'm like, how do you not see it? But then it's like, well, you forget that you were there. You had no fucking idea. And then, yeah, it's just, we have to really get down into it. I find the awakening process, yes, that is the moment when you wake up. That is literally the moment when you have a choice. You know, or you learn that you have a choice now to make, because we lived in a world where we thought we didn't have any choices to make. And then you wake up and you're welcomed into this new world, new lens, new eyes, new vision, perception, and everything like that. So yeah, I had to dismantle my whole everything, look at myself. I feel like I was able to embrace, because I began it with just this newfound sense of what love is supposed to feel like. I'll start there, like a very baseline. Oh yeah, that was the word we used, baseline of love. And I found that was enough to propel me forward. So when it came to me seeing myself through others, especially through Tina, or just going through the motions of dismantling my 3D world, one thing at a time, it's very easy to decide that you're going to give up. But I was fortunate enough, like I said, to have that baseline of love, which kept me really on the grid every single moment. Um, because if you don't have that, I find it's going to be very difficult for you to transition and move through, and letting go. I found like that crucial question, who are you if you aren't any of those things? Whatever you say after I am this and that. You're not like the labels, the 3D labels.
Right. Like I am wife, I am mother, I'm a doctor, I'm a nurse, I'm
Yeah.
this, I'm that, I have
Yeah.
a chronic illness, whatever
Yeah.
you put after that, whoever you are, you label yourself as in the 3D world. Like who are you without all of those things? And really the journey is in finding that again, remembering that, because we all know deep down. It's
Hmm.
just deconstructing that on the physical level, like
Yeah.
you're saying.
And learning not to attach to them anymore, because they really aren't who you are. They are your experiences in this body. It is the body's experience. But who you really are is anything compared to those limiting things. Like you are everything and nothing all at the same time. Easy, right? Um, but yeah, so me and Tina had to do our own individual um, healings, and that commitment, the deep commitment to ourselves and healing that, it is it is a deep relationship that we had to develop within. Um, and no matter how ugly it was, you had to just keep going towards the ugly. Like it was just like, you go into the shadows, and it's not like, okay, well, where's the exit now? You have to keep going into the shadows.
Yeah.
Keep going and shining your light onto everything, because there's so much hidden in there. You don't even know what's hidden in there unless you illuminate it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, I'm still discovering them as we go along, but I have no, um, not a lot less resistance towards it, a lot less. And it gets easier and easier. And I keep saying that I can see how hard it is for people to even get out of that victimhood. Because I mean, like Tina and I, like we woke up in our like in our 30s or whatever, but it was just like, you were a victim for those 30 years. And then it's like now you have to get out of that label of victim and take responsibility. And yes, of course, I understand how people can't wrap their head around it sometimes, but you don't understand, all this happened to me.
Right.
It all happened to me. But that is your 3D perspective. It is a 3D perspective. It is a limited perspective. You're not looking at it on a soul level.
Right. On a soul level, it all happened for you. It happened for your growth. And some people can look at that and say, and don't get me wrong, there are some traps that are laid in our matrix because of the way it's set up.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some things that are influenced by dark forces that weren't part of the plan, or that we fell into, or whatever. We always have free will. Well, most of the time we have free will, but generally, we set up the timeline for our growth according to the lessons that we want to learn. And some people can look at the atrocities that happened to them or to others and say, well, how could I have chosen that? Or how could there be a God if he allows these things to happen, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so the coming from the higher perspective allows us to see that we choose this, like before incarnation, we choose these challenges, as hard as they may be. We choose these, especially hard challenges, if you are in a level of soul expansion. So the harder your challenges are, the more your soul wants to grow and is challenging itself to grow. And I get that, because if someone would have told me, 10 years ago that I created my illness, or that I chose my chronic illness, I would have thought they were crazy, right? But going through this journey and this process, I've learned that, yeah, that was the chronic illness that I had for all that time was part of my soul's journey, so that I could learn to heal from it and then help others, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
was like my path of the wounded healer. And also, what kept me going on that path was knowing that there was freedom on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Just always believing that and trusting that there is freedom on the other side. If I could just get past this, I know there's freedom on the other side, because I was trusting in my body's ability to heal. I was trusting the plan that I had laid out for myself, and understanding that there was more to life than just suffering, and trusting in my body's and soul's ability to heal. And what really kept me going was, one, knowing that there was freedom, and two, that I don't ever want to do this again. I don't want to come back here and do this again. Because if we don't learn our lessons in this lifetime, we will come back and repeat them, and they will be harder the next time. And,
Right.
Dolores has explored this through her work, and this is the work that we're continuing to understand, is that if we don't learn these lessons, we'll come back. And we've seen that in the many sessions that we've done, is that people have past lives where they're just repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating the same exact patterns, because they're not learning the lesson. And so they keep coming back and keep repeating and keep repeating. And then all of that trauma from all of those lives you're carrying now. And now is your big chance to release it all. Like,
Right.
finally, this is the lifetime. This is it. This is why we're here, to release our past lifetimes of trauma that we've carried for so long, our ancestral trauma and generational trauma, and our own individual trauma that we've carried through all of these lifetimes. This is the lifetime. This is the big one, as my client said the other day in her session. This is the big one for many, many of us, is to really finally learn these lessons and move past them.
Mm-hmm.
And karma is an issue. Everyone talks about karma, and they talk about it being kind of like this thing
A
about luck
revenge thing.
or a revenge thing. But what karma really is it's our choice. It's always our choice. And if you as a soul don't choose to come back here, then you won't come back here. But what we do is say we experience life as a victim, and then we come back to experience what the other side of that is like as a victimizer. So we've all been victims and victimizers. And that's how you can learn to find compassion for the victimizer, maybe even the person who has victimized you. And Karen and I have both experienced that in our life. And we've both been able to move past it and find love and compassion for the people that have victimized us. It's not an easy thing to do, but finding forgiveness releases you from
Yeah.
that pattern. When you
It's not
finally,
about them.
right, because it's never about them. It's about you releasing yourself. You don't have to go to that person and say, I forgive you for what X, Y, and Z. That's not how this works. When you find forgiveness in your heart, it's for you. It's to release yourself from those chains, because they really are chains. When you're holding revenge or anger in your heart, that's
Mm-hmm.
only chaining you down. That's not hurting this person who victimized you. You're not releasing them by forgiving them. You're releasing your own self. So that's why forgiveness is so important, and that's a major part of quantum healing, of having a beyond quantum healing session, is understanding your life and how it's played out from the soul's perspective, so that not only can you find forgiveness for the people that have victimized you, but so that you can find forgiveness for yourself for making those choices. and understanding that you made contracts with these people to carry out um, this play that we're all participating in right now. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was thinking also about, how we say we have free will. What I've learned in the work that we've done with RSR, I really don't believe we have free will until we're clean, like we're spiritually clean. And so that raises a point about, maybe the storylines that we have chosen are not exactly as they had played out. Maybe they're a lot more dysfunctional or painful. And
Mhm.
because of the influences, this is the world and the universe that we live in right now. So, because our planet is enslaved and in a matrix, there is a lot of duality here. And so, understanding the darkness and how they play out through other people and experiences and circumstances um, are like heavily infiltrating, like in our current situation. They infiltrate us all the time, but we just have the luxury that we can clear ourselves. Um, so, I wanted to point out that we have resources to help with that. So it's just like, to get into, if you really are dead set on healing yourself and your path, I really do recommend that you have these spiritual health checks, that you get them for your family members. You don't need their consent. I mean, like, it's just really if the higher self says okay, because like we have the resources to do this, to clear it out, so that at least you feel that you are safe, that you have a clean slate all across the board with your ancestral line. Like, we can cut all those cords, we can give you that fresh start that you're looking for if you really do want to heal. So
Yeah.
I'm just putting that out there, that we have things to offer others. So we can see how it can get really complex, because if there's like 20 family members involved, it's just really like, how could we cut closest to the root? So of course we do have to pick and choose. Um it is about time and money and stuff like that, because it does take up a lot of energy to do this, especially with the kind of energies that we work with at times. So I'm just saying, like, again, if it's really like an important investment for you, for your health, your mental health, your spiritual health, your health in general, like everything,
Yeah.
it's something to consider.
Yeah, that's a really good point to bring up, because it isn't as simple as, we choose these lessons and this is it. There are influences here, like you mentioned, and like you said, we don't really have full free will until we're aware of the darkness and how it can and does work through us and through others to influence our path. And what Jesus explained, there's an article I wrote a while ago now, because someone posed the question, like, is duality a creation of God, of evil, or of humanity? I think it was. And what he explained was duality in its natural form, light and dark, right? It's always been that way since creation. Darkness was created at the same time. And so he explained that we come here into this system of duality to experience the contrast in order to further our soul's growth.
Mhm.
However, however, the system that is currently in place right now on Earth is this inverted matrix system. And within this inverted matrix system, there is, to put it simply, there is extra darkness at play, and
Mhm.
extra manipulation and mind control, and all of these things that go into this inverted matrix, and the beings who are kind of in control of it. So yes, RSR, remote spirit release, having one of those sessions can be super powerful in reinstating your sovereignty, like clearing your energy so that you're the only person in control of your mind, body, and soul. And also within an RSR session, we also do soul retrieval. So what we do is check to see how much of the soul you're actually embodying, because what can happen when we go through an inverted matrix system like this is parts of our souls can be left behind. It can be trapped somewhere. People can take it, entities can steal it and trade it. Um, the soul energy is um, almost like a currency to these beings.
Mm.
And so doing the work of RSR and doing a soul retrieval will complete your soul. I mean, we might find that you're embodying 83% of your soul, and maybe that's why you're struggling so much to heal yourself, because you're not working at full power. So yeah, having an RSR session can really clean slate energetically, like removing implants, devices, because these beings in this matrix system that are running this system, they know when a really powerful light being is coming in to Earth. They know by your DNA signature, by your frequency, when you're coming in to this matrix. They know, they're notified, they're watching out for the souls coming in. And what they will try to do is stop at that at any cost. So if you've been, we've all had traumatic births. Most of us have had traumatic hospital births. But if you've had like extra trauma, like the cord being wrapped around your neck, or I mean, it could be anything. Sometimes that is a manipulation by the darkness to stop that you as a light being coming into this planet, because your light frequency is so high that they know of the effect it will have.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, there are many things at play in our lives here. But the thing about it is, once we finally stop burying our heads in the sand and really look at our reality, that's when we become powerful, and we no longer allow the dark side to infiltrate us or manipulate us in any way, shape, or form. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to put a note there for everybody, like in the spiritual community or just people in general who are spiritual. It's like, or who don't know, that, you know, being spiritual is not, it's not glamorous at all. It's very ugly. It's really, you know, naked on the floor in the bathroom, like crying ugly, like ugly. You know, it could really get you down to your knees and keep you there for periods of time, like literal, like when you hear the dark night of the soul, it's not just one time. It can happen a lot because you're in a constant rebirth, and rebirth and rebirth and leveling up every time. But it's us who has to take responsibility for it. It's just us who always have to keep standing up. And there's so many things going on all at the same time. You are here having that human experience and trying to be that soul in there, like that as a driver, you know, really taking charge of the entire ship.
Yeah, like allowing your higher self to drive instead of the lower 3D self. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, it's not, you know, like when people uphold that like snooty, like, oh, well, you know, there's a lot of things. I'm sure you've seen it. I can't really think of anything at this time. Maybe you can, but you know, like very, you know, that spiritual ego. There is a spiritual ego.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, you know, saying things like, well, you don't get it, so, you know, because you're one
You're
of those
not enlightened.
you're not enlightened enough, or you're just a sheep like everybody else, and you know, there's no compassion there. And yeah, it's really just, again, it for me, I have to remind myself too. So I do get that like snooty, you know, once in a while. But I mean, it could get really frustrating, especially in the world that we live in, because we just want it to hurry up. We just want to be free from this matrix because we know what's going on, right? So yeah, but when it all comes down, like, I mean, the spiritual experience is really just the whole experience. It's not just one thing. It's everything happening all at once and nothing at the same time. It's the same thing. So, I mean, yeah, it is everything, like where you have to dismantle yourself, where you have to just let go of everything and then live in your 3D body with a 5D consciousness or whatever consciousness, higher consciousness,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. And the best thing we can do for ourselves right now is to, you know, among all the chaotic energies going on around us, because there is so much chaos in the collective right now, the best thing we can do for ourselves, and I keep getting this message, is to be in love and joy and, you know, following our passion. Whatever you're passionate about, do that. because that's going to raise the vibration of the earth, and it's also not going to feed the matrix system with your low vibrational energy, because the matrix system feeds off of our energy, off the low vibrational energy, like anger and rage and frustration and worry and doubt, fear, shame, all of it. So, we can't control what's going on out there. All we can do is control what's going on in here. And so being in those high vibrational emotions of love and joy and bliss as often as you can is the most important thing we can do. And also being able to see the world and what's going on in our physical reality from a point of
neutrality. Yeah.
A point of neutrality and not reaction, right? Because that's what the matrix is designed to do. It's designed to get us to react from the emotional body so that then it can feed on those emotions. But if we can just hold that point of neutrality and just observe without having to feed into it, and just hold that with peace in our hearts, that's the best thing we can do right now. And that was also the message that came through for the collective in my client's session the other day. I don't want to say her name yet because she didn't give me permission, but it was for humanity to just be able to hold that peace and know that the light is winning. Let me see. I think I wrote down the message. Hold steady. Change is coming. Don't fear. And she was connected to these really high vibrational extraterrestrial beings. We weren't exactly sure who they were, but they were super high vibe that our internet was like on the verge of going out. Like it was really super high vibe. So change is coming. Don't fear. Lucifer is on the way out. Celestial guardians are with us, sending rays of hope and reassurance that this will be over soon. Live full of love and what matters to us. Live with the values that are related to earth and to life itself. Because we've had this like anti-life energy on earth. That's what the matrix system is, an anti-life system. So we need to go back to really valuing life and just valuing life in all its forms,
all of them, all of it. That's why it's hard sometimes to have compassion. That's real. That's a real statement. I mean, like people have it hard. It's really difficult to have compassion, to find compassion when you don't see eye to eye. Can you, or can you accept them anyway without being able to have the same views? It is difficult to be there and to meet someone there and to, you're not going to love everybody, but it's just to understand if you can just, again, we always talk about stepping back and seeing everything that we are all part of God's creation. So therefore we are all one. And so it's just like they say, love thy neighbor. And it's hard, but they are you and you are them. So it is a mind fuck, sometimes, because you're like, how's that possible? But we've all played each other's roles. Like I remember seeing in Tena's session that I did for her. It was what session was it? I think surrogate. And I was like in a crowd of people and I was facing one way and everybody was facing the other and all their faces was yours. So it's like everybody is you. We are each other. We've all played those roles. Yeah. This is what it is. It's just like, can you recognize yourself in everybody? Mm-hmm. Can you have compassion for them, regardless?
Yeah. And also, understanding that not everybody came here to wake up.
Right. It's hard.
It is hard. And
I think everybody awakened had struggles with that at first. Like they're so excited to get out of that sleepy journey that they're just like, oh my God, how come no one could see this? And why are you not waking up? Anyway, go ahead. It's just everybody goes through that.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially right now, because it feels so imperative that people wake up, especially to things like the vaccine. And as 2020 exposed more and more of what's really going on in the world, and you just want people to see it, right?
Yes.
But I think what holds them back, really, I think they do. I think a lot of them do, but they're fearful of admitting it, because then what?
Yeah, because then now you have to take responsibility. They'd rather just be the one to receive, because it's easier that way. Just give it to me, because I don't want to deal. I don't know how to deal.
Right, because no one ever taught them. No one ever taught us how to deal with life.
Right. It's difficult, but we also, when we become awakened, we have that savior complex. We want to save everybody.
Yeah.
It's just a different way. Like we probably did it like before too, wanting to help everybody, not having boundaries, going the whole way, going to help. And then, but it happens too when you wake up. You just want to, you go, what more can I do? I want to do more. But you have to come to a realization that you cannot save anyone. You can only save yourself, and that's part of the whole thing. You are the only one who can help yourself.
Yeah.
Nobody can do it for you.
Yeah.
We're here to assist you, but we've done our work on ourselves, and we're still doing it.
Yeah.
It never ends.
Yeah. Yeah. You just come to a place where it gets easier and faster to process through, right? Like you can move through a whole thing in one day now, where it used to take you
not even. It took me a while. I mean, when I was at your place, I was, I was faced with, like, for example, I was faced like with my son. My son was an exact replica of me as a child. I was actually reflecting on them too as I was putting them to bed before this. And I was saying that my daughter is the feminine, like the feminine part of me that I never got to live. And my son is all the parts that I was shamed for. So like, that's why it's just like, I hold her so closely because she's a delicate little flower. And then I shun him because I'm just mirroring what was shamed in me in him, so that was a really interesting thing that I figured today. I was just like, wow, both my cells are like right here, and I'm sleeping like in between them, like really lucky. I have two mirrors next to me, like, but I treat them very differently. And yeah, I mean, like, I recognize that. So I mean, like, there's still healing there. I still have a lot to look at, so there's always going to be something. You're never done.
Right. And that's what they're there for. They're there to assist you in healing those parts of yourselves. But you are willing to look in that mirror and see the reflection and reflect what's reflected back to you, and then go internally to say, okay, what do I need to do now? How do I heal this? And where do we go from here? But a lot of people, would be faced with that mirror and just do the opposite of that.
Right.
Because it's when you're faced, especially with parts of yourself like that you were shamed for, like in Buggy, that's not easy to look at and to hold that. So that could create a really difficult relationship with an unconscious parent. If you were an unconscious parent, that would create a really difficult relationship.
Totally.
Because you guys are it's like two positives or two negatives coming together. It's not, it's just not connecting.
I find there's a lot, like I healed a lot of that while I was on vacation with you. And again, I'm talking about like how quickly it comes and goes. So it's just like, I was just having a discussion with Tena about it, and it got me really emotional just to feel it. And then it was just like, the reflection of it just comes in. I'm just accepting my emotions as they are in that time. And then I self-soothe, and then it goes. Like, it was really quick. But I mean, like, it could be that quick. It doesn't have to be something like, okay, well, I don't want to deal with it right now. So like, I'm going to distract myself and eat more food, which is usually what we all have our coping mechanisms. But yeah, it's just like it's come into a place now for me where I came from a family of avoidance to a place where I'm just like, let me cry here right now and let it be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that way you move through it instead of avoiding it.
Mm-hmm. And it's really a constant state of how can I do better? How can I be better tomorrow? You know, it's a lot of forgiveness of the self. If because sometimes it's just like I feel like I'm moving like 10 steps forward with him in our relationship. And then he shows me another part of myself and I go back like, let's go back to start. And I gotta do it again. And I feel guilty for it. Because that was a bad day. It was a bad mom day. It was, and that guilt comes up and that shame. And like, again, like, am I screwing him up again? But he's here to show me, and I'm here to heal that so he doesn't have to deal with it later. So as I'm healing, he's going to heal too, you know? So there's a lot of that back and forth between he and I, because when I learn the lesson, I can teach him what that lesson was. And as we've come to a place that I really love this about them is that they can tell me what they're feeling as well as they can. I find Buggy's really good at expressing himself to me more. He'll apologize and be like, I'm sorry if that hurt your feelings. But I love that he can tell me because I can take it. Because I know he's just reflecting something back in me. And they're like, I called them like little suggestion boxes. Like, it's good because then I want to do better for you so that, and I said to him, I go, because for him, he's been very negative with all the stuff that's been happening last year and really down on himself and his self-esteem. But I told him, I go, if you commit to yourself and be positive and do better for yourself, then I will do that too. Like, I want to do that for myself too, so that we can have a better and stronger relationship together. So it's like, if you can promise to do that, I can promise to do that too. We could do it together. So, there's an incentive there. He gets a healthier and funnier mom, and I get, myself back and through him, pieces of myself, my inner child.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he gets his life back. Like, again, like I keep saying, he doesn't need to learn it 30 years down the line. He'll get 20 years of his life back or start fully.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a beautiful thing. I love that. It's really beautiful. Let me see if there's anything else.
I was like, oh yeah, please like and comment down below. Like and subscribe, share it with your friends. If you know people who have YouTube or subscribe to YouTube, to please subscribe. If you don't have a username yet, or a Gmail account, please get a Gmail account so you can subscribe. Join.
Yeah, so there are a lot of people struggling right now. I think people are going to be called to deeper and deeper healing. And having a quantum healing session is a really deep way to explore the soul, pretty much. And for me, my own regressions were huge for me in healing my chronic illness. And also, this was, but also what helped with that was like spirit release too, and clearing the energetic body from all of the distortions. That was huge.
Yeah, that
So
I find RSR
those,
is really big.
yeah, those two together, like having a remote spirit release and then a BQA session is huge, because what RSR does is it, cleans the energetic body from all the entities, earthbound, any kind of infringements, implants that could be blocking your connection to the higher self, right? Because the body is so full of these infringements. So having that session and then having a BQH session really allows for that connection to that channel to be cleared so that your connection can be that much stronger. Yeah. They're really powerful together.
And if you're not ready to have a session, a BQH, We do have it with the RSR too. Like, again, it's kind of like we said with the bubble sessions. If you want to get your feet wet, it's the same thing, except you get your clearing and we can answer your questions too if you have any. So
Yeah,
there's always that option.
and so if you don't know what a bubble session is, it's just having a mini BQH session, but Karen stands in for you. And all you have to do is submit 5 questions for your higher self. And so what usually happens is we're shown a scene from a past life or a metaphor, and we explore that for a little bit. And then we connect with the higher self to see why we saw that scene and what you need to learn from it. And and then we go into answering your 5 questions. And those sessions usually about 40 to 60 minutes, depending.
Mhm.
And yeah, like you said, it's a really great way to get your feet wet if you're not ready for a full session. There's lots of other options too. Like Karen does channeled messages and energy work, and you could always have an RSR on its own, or have an RSR plus the 5 questions. That's a really fun session. I really like that one.
I find like we've been fortunate enough. I mean, like, it really depends. Like, I mean, we can say them in a broader perspective, but it really depends who comes into our field, because we've had sessions where we go in, we do the RSR, and then it ends up becoming like this healing thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we go
Well,
to we just go what we're called to do. There's always going to be something. It's always pretty unique in its own way. Sometimes they're all incorporated, or things just come out. Tina's there too, because then she if for more clarity, even for you, will go and ask the questions. Like, there's always something that
yeah.
happens.
Our RSR sessions are much more than just removing entities. Like, they're pretty deep.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. Yeah, we're doing like psychic surgeries sometimes in there. Like, there's always something.
Yeah, so if anyone feels called to work with us, you can check out our website and email me. And we'd be happy to really assist anyone right now, because I know it's a really hard time and many people are being called to heal on a deeper level. And the combination of RSR and BQH is hugely powerful. So, anything else you want to say or we forgot to say?
Well, probably after we listen back. But no, I think that's a pretty good message, and an honest one.
An honest one, yeah. I think we're pretty honest.
Yeah. At least I am. I don't know. I have no problem telling you I cry on the floor naked in the bathroom. That's never happened, by the way.
We're all human, and we're all just doing our best. Like, we all have human moments, and I have them all the time. Every day I have human moments.
Well, yeah, I hope so. If that's what I mean. Like, it's just like spiritual people. Like, it's just like those people are like, oh yeah, well, women don't fart. Like, it's like, what? But it's the same thing for spiritual people. Like, oh, we all have our human moments. We're here. We're human.
Right. And we can. This is
That's the thing.
the human.
It's okay to make a mistake.
Right, and
It's not a mistake.
the human experience is the spiritual experience. Like, this is what we came here for, right? And yeah, we are upgrading and we are shifting in consciousness, but more than an ascension, it's going deeper and deeper into ourselves and really grounding, with the earth, and really being here and allowing ourselves to be human and be led by our higher selves, and
Right.
connect.
We've shamed the human. Like, when you become spiritual, it's like, oh well, I can't do that. That's just that's so 3D. But it's like 3D. Like, but I've been heard that, like, having your bad emotions is too 3D, and I'm like, no, have them. You want those. Those are good ones.
Yeah. Yeah, really allowing yourself to be human. It's not a bad thing. It's why we came here. We came here for this experience.
Yeah, right. Right.
And, even with all the chaos and, all the bad things that happen on earth, it really still is a beautiful experience. And yeah, as hard as it is, there are really beautiful moments, like all those little in between things, like the silent pauses and just the magic things that happen every day that you take for granted. So
Yeah. Oh yeah, I got out of quarantine today, and it was just like I got home and I helped my sister shovel, and I helped my niece make her, like, I watched her make her little snowman, and I got in the house. My mom throws recycling at me, so I gotta go throw that out. And I come back in and I give her like the biggest hug ever. Like it's just little little things that we don't, because I mean I haven't seen my family in 5 weeks. It's long for us at least, or it feels long, especially um, when you're forced not to have that connection. It's usually like you want it more when you can't have it, right?
yeah,
But yeah, so it was just really like, if this is it, I don't want to live during this pandemic being told what I'm supposed to do and what not I'm not supposed to do. But I'm going to choose always to follow where my connection is, because I don't want no fucking regrets when if something happens.
yeah,
I don't want that. I don't want to be like, shit, I should have taken that ride to go if I could.
yeah,
So
to go see them. Yeah. And if you're thinking about, a friend who
reach out.
reach out. Don't be
Yeah, and
afraid
try
to
to have
reach
that
out.
hard conversation. I am going to have it. I know I'm going to write it.
Which hard conversation?
The one that we talked about before we logged on.
Oh, that one. Gotcha. Okay.
I know how I'm going to approach it
Good.
and
Yeah.
take responsibility.
And just thinking back to like saving people and everything, part of our growth is in learning boundaries and having boundaries with people and learning, especially for women, especially who've been groomed to have to care about everyone and take care of everyone all the time. That's a huge lesson
Except
for us.
herself. Yes.
Yeah, and especially in learning boundaries and learning that we can't save everyone. And when we do try, we will fall into that trap and have to learn that lesson the hard way, which I've done a million times over. So, um, and that's
Yeah.
always something that will come back, like that pattern will keep repeating itself until you get the lesson, right? Like it's almost like a test. Like it keeps showing up, it keeps showing up, it keeps showing up until you do it right,
Right.
And yeah, most of my lessons have taken me many times over and over and over.
It's all good.
Yeah. Yep. All right, guys. Well, we love you. We're so grateful and honored for you to even watch our videos and hang out with us. We really do appreciate it. Please like this video. If you like it, subscribe to our channel, share with your friends. Leave us a comment. We really love to hear from you guys, and we respond to all the comments.
Yes.
So, yeah, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.